this computer. Yes. All right, everybody, we are recording. Welcome back to another show. I'm really excited today. We have another guest. Yes, another guest today. And this is my friend who we actually met on Twitter, and we saw that we had some stuff in common. And one of those was knowledge of the occult and psychology and stuff like that. So he said, hey, you want to have me on your show? And I was like, sure, why not? I always ask people to come on my show. So someone that asked me to come on my show, it's even better, right? Now I'm going to have all kinds of people ask me. That's all right. Hit me up, guys.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, exactly. You know? That's how
hopefully
you can talk to people.
A good pattern or trend or something.
Yeah, I like that. I like talking to random people that I meet online about different things, just because I feel that when you get in circles with certain people, you start to think the same things. And then if you could find somebody, especially when it comes to the occult and symbols and psychology, you could find somebody that you follow online, and then there's people that follow them, and you meet them in Discord and stuff, and it's good. You get a good, I like that. But then there's also people you can come across who have knowledge of this same thing, but they don't know this teacher you speak of, or they have no idea who you're talking about. They came at it from another angle, because this is, it's knowledge that's been around for a long time. So it comes down to different people through different pathways. So everybody, I want to announce, I'm just going to introduce my friend Anon on Twitter. I guess we can give you a shout out on Twitter. It's Anon Messages.
Anon
Mess Age Sage. Yeah, I'm sorry. Anon
yeah,
Mess Age Sage.
It's the most ridiculous fucking name, but it's way too late to change it. So it's like, just because I can't change it now, I've already promoted way too much with that name. So I just let it go. No one knows how to fucking pronounce it. That's cool. I don't mind. It is a ridiculous name. I was trying to come up with the most perfect name possible, because I think the name that you give yourself pretty much defines you, and it's just the most absurd name. No one can pronounce it, but the meaning of the term is it's basically just about the internet. People hide behind online identities, and those identities become who they are, especially in today's digital world. That's basically what the whole meaning of that term is.
Yeah, for sure. I also wanted to say that I actually knew that's what it was. I knew it, but when I read it earlier, but I liked the part that it was sage. But then when I went to say it, my brain just, did the brain thing. And I actually announce people for a living. That's like my job, but anyway, yeah.
I say Anon Mess Age Sage is how you're supposed to say it.
Yeah. So I like the sage part of it, because I feel that that's a word that definitely gets misconstrued in this, people look at it different ways, but it's also not used that much. And I think that I think we need more sages. I'll just say it that way. We need more people that want to live a certain life, but then also impart wisdom on people, on their fellow man,
Yeah, I agree. See, the sage part of that name is actually ironic. It's basically saying that basically everybody on the internet is a bunch of anonymous people hiding behind identities, and they're acting like they're self-righteous. They're acting like they have the answer. That's pretty much everyone. You have to look at yourself that way. You have to be able to laugh at yourself. Like, that's pretty much what the internet is. Everyone's trying to basically sell you their idea of reality or their existence.
Yeah. Oh, I've noticed that. I've noticed that for sure. I came across one guy recently who is the opposite of that. And I got to say, I love it, because that's kind of what I feel. That's been my journey on the internet. I started this whole thing out getting into podcasts and stuff. I started listening to Joe Rogan like in 2012 or something. And then from there, I was just on this journey. Like, I don't even listen to him anymore, and it's crazy that, did I just lose the point I was talking about? Yeah, I think I did. I think I started talking about myself and got excited. It's all right. I have this superpower where if I tried to not remember, it just comes right back up. So anyway, it's just been a long journey. I don't know. I totally forgot what I was talking about. I'm the worst podcaster sometimes.
Yeah, well, it's like
you go ahead and I'll remember.
It's like the internet. It's I don't know. Me personally, I don't even like. I'll go on someone's show or talk to them. And I've it gets to a certain point where you just like a genuinely trying to help someone, and there's just too much of a negative human element into it at this point, where if I really do try to help someone or people in general and enrich their life or give whatever knowledge I have to pass on to others, it's almost like they they won't allow me to do that, or they'll sabotage it somehow. Because like I've had certain conversations where it seemed like we were cool and everything was great, but then just people, I don't know, it's people act like flaky, and then you just never really know what's going on in someone's mind, especially when you're basically trying to help people. It's pretty selfless. I don't understand, but that's just what I had to like experience. I don't know about you, but I don't know. I've dealt with a lot of people on the internet, so
Yeah,
you know.
I remember exactly what I wanted to say now. It's a good thing you said that. And it is what I feel it's like when you start to come across some of this knowledge, you want to spread it to people. You want people to, to wake up and to see what's going on. And I heard something recently, and this guy was saying, his name is James True. He's got a show, but he was saying if you take someone's chains away, or if you take someone's chains off of them, like their slavery chains, um, they're going to hate you for it. So
Yeah.
they're going to think you're stealing from them. So instead, he said that you kind of almost got to do it like Jesus did in the Bible through parable, um,
Mhm.
or like even any of these religious figures like Krishna or Buddha. They spoke a lot through parable, and it was because this way people it'll work on them. Like some people get it right away. With those who have ears to hear, they'll be like, all right, I see what he's saying. And then other people, they'll take it as like a nice story, and then it'll just work on them. And later on one day they'll go boom, and it's like like you're planting this time bomb in their brain, to go off at a later date. And that's happened to me. That's how I know. It's kind of like you think, like I watched The Matrix when I was younger and I loved it and I watched it so many times. But now I watch it recently and I'm like, oh, I get it now. Like,
Yeah, I look like Agent Smith right now, don't I?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, basically it's like I've spent so much time trying to help people, basically with my basic message, which is psychological. It's all based on psychology. And it's like, at this point I don't even care anymore about that. I used to be super idealistic about trying to help people, but it's either they don't want, I mean, the message that I give is pretty enriching. It's going to enrich your life, and it's basically giving you the ingredients. But it seems like people are either pissed off at me when I try to talk about these things, or they just won't even allow me to have some kind of platform. I've done like shows with people, and they just act really weird. And you never know. You never. I can never really pinpoint why people act like that. I really have no idea. So at this point, I'm like, fuck it, fine. You don't want the positive message, then whatever. Don't have the positive message.
Yeah, I think people sometimes, when you start to talk truth, especially, they see it as a direct attack on themselves because a lot of people are so stuck in their ego frame of mind. And it's, I was that way. So it's not like it's an indictment on anybody, but I feel that it's the way we're raised in this society. And most people aren't even conscious of it. So, even for example, like I stopped eating bread and I stopped eating wheat, and I told people, like, I don't eat bread, and they're like, oh, and they start flipping out and saying, I can never eat or live without pasta and all this stuff. And I just say, I'm just letting you know, because you asked me. That's what I did, and I lost, a bunch of weight, and I'm just letting you know because you asked. But you could eat wheat if you want. Go ahead. I don't. It's not an indictment on you, but I
Yeah,
feel that
keto. Keto is a
people,
good diet. Definitely works.
yeah, and I think that people, they just see it. It's like a mirror because you're holding a mirror up to them. So it's like a tarot card is the same way. If you have a problem with it, they always say it's because there's something you have to look at within. So, but instead, people will just look at things that they hate in themselves, but they see them in you, whatever it is, and then they just attack you and they externalize it, and
Well, it gets
that's
to the
part of it.
point they just misrepresent me. They don't. I believe everybody should be responsible for what they do and what they say, good and bad. You have to stand up for what you believe in. You're going to probably piss a lot of people off, but you have to do it anyway. And people should always get credit for who they are, what they do, and what they say. And it's like sometimes it's like they're denying me that opportunity to speak my truth. So I don't. I mean, I don't know. Am I touching on something that's sensitive, but I just noticed a lot of people basically just try to misrepresent me.
Yeah, it's really, it goes back, I think, really to the way people are in the society. I always try to I try to empathize with people. It's hard, but I feel that it's taken me this long because I mean, I'm 40, I'll be 44. Actually, 1 month from today, I'll be 44.
Oh, well, you look
So
pretty young.
thanks. Yeah, I get that a lot. So I think I just have really good genes. I mean, like I tell people, one of my jokes is even like when I was 18, I joined the Marine Corps, but I look like I was 12. And they didn't care. They're like, all right, whatever, dude. Here's a rifle. Like, go ahead. But seriously, it was crazy. But yeah, I don't know. I think that it took me a while to figure this stuff out. I had anger issues, and I mean, I could still get angry. I mean, who can't? But I feel that now I just try, whatever the situation is, I try to put myself in the other person's shoes and I just make up like the worst case scenario that it could be for them. And then it just makes me feel a little better. And even then I'll even make fun of them a little bit inside and I can make a joke out of it because I do comedy. So then I get like, hey, maybe I got a bit here, you know? And it
Yeah,
helps me a lot. But I get what you're saying. It is very frustrating because you're thinking to yourself like this it makes sense. I have these facts here. Look, they're true. You could prove them. Why won't you pay attention to me? This is beneficial to you. But I feel that the problem is, in order for people to admit that, there's a lot of other stuff that's very painful that they have to deal with, and people just don't want to do that work. That's the hard, and it's hard. It's hard to do that work. It's not fun,
it
but
yeah, it pisses me off though because I mean it couldn't be more selfless at the end of the fucking day. So it gets me like thinking, like trying to evaluate what the world is. Is it we like is it's like the world's so fake you can't even give people anything real. It's like I've just become so disillusioned by that process. I just say fuck it, but I'm not totally fuck it. But it's just like it's not. I'm not going to allow that bother me anymore. It just when people act in certain weird ways, there's really nothing I can fucking do. That's their problem. I can't do anything about that shit. That's just their weirdness.
yeah, you can only do you, really. That's what I've even come to in my work lately because I've interviewed a couple people and I've talked to people about a lot of stuff, especially like current events and everything that's going on. But I feel like instead of trying to convince people who it's not gonna like it doesn't matter. You could put and I just feel like I'm gonna put the information out there and the people that are ready to hear it are going to come across it and it'll benefit them. And then hopefully it will reach more people. And I'm always willing to talk to people. Like I'll talk to anybody, but busting my head against a wall to try to explain to people just what an actual human right is. It's like,
I have a question for you, if you don't mind.
yeah, no, please.
Do you believe that basically it's possible to give people a powerful, enriching message which ultimately seeks to empower them and everybody else? Or do you think we live in such a fake world that you can't even don't even you just have to lie to people? Or if you want to climb the ladder to success or whatever, you just lie to people. It's like, because I see a lot of that. I see a lot of people just lying.
Oh yeah.
Politicians is the obvious answer, but just like everybody, just people just they get too tied up in their beliefs. I think their ideologies. I think you need to step back from that a little bit. People don't like doing that. I just don't like politics. It just pisses me off because I see both sides as just basically the same thing, just from a different way of putting it. But it's like I don't know. That's just I don't know. Do you think that you can offer people something real, beautiful, powerful, and enriching, empowering?
Yeah, I mean, I believe you can, but it just depends on what you're like. If you want to get rich, probably not.
No, no, no.
But if you want to, I think this is what I feel. I feel this is a universe of it's choose your own adventure. And if you want to be a crazy, disgusting, rich, I don't know, pedophile, whatever, you can go do that. Or just a rich person or whatever it is, you can go pursue that. And that's basically like praying to that God. And that's what you will become eventually, if not in this life, maybe the next. But
Yeah,
I kind of feel that for me, I feel my calling, if I'm listening to like my path, I feel what it is for me is to put out that message and try. And I've come to this realization that there's no way I'm going to change the world. Right. I mean, maybe, but I don't want to say it's impossible, but my goal is not to change the entire world. You know, it's baby steps. It's like one mind at a time. It's one person. Like, what could we get together and build in this lifetime for the next generation? Because it's up to them to either do it or pass it down. You know, like we just got to keep the torch lit. That's like my job right now. So I think it is possible to get that message out there. But it's only going to reach who it's going to reach, you know? So it's funny. I get these things for Facebook. They're like, you want to advertise with us? I'm like, no one's gonna like, no, I just put it out and I talk to people like, this isn't stuff you can advertise on Facebook. This stuff has to be like shown to you by a friend, or you got to randomly come across it by, you know, like a synchronicity, I think. But, so I think it is possible to answer your question, to get back to that. But you know, if you want to be rich or you want to be famous and all this stuff, it's easier to sell out and to take some of that truth, just like they do with religion. They take some of it and use it as bait, and then they have that hook, which is the control. And at the end of the day, you have to answer to them, not yourself. And that's when you know you're hoodwinked again.
Yeah, that's just, I mean, that's just how it is. Like, just the world is so fake. All you have to do is just look at commercials on the internet or on television, and just like, no, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. It's just people trying to sell you shit, honestly. It's just like everybody is basically the same. And that's basically what the name Anon Mess Age Sage means. But it's like, it's almost like if you're trying to be idealistic in terms of like genuinely wanting to help people, like the story of Jesus Christ. I mean, he got nailed to a cross, and he couldn't have been, you know, that was the most like pure spirit. And that the message being sent there, to me at least, is that, I mean, if you try to do anything like that, it's not going to work out. I mean, I'm not sure though. I really am not.
Oh yeah, no, I'm glad you're asking, because I would say this would be my rebuttal to that would be, yeah, they could do that, but I'm going to keep coming back and they could keep nailing me to crosses because I got all day. But I think that comes with like when because I basically, I'm on my path. I feel that I'm on my path, and I really lost my fear of death. Like, I don't want to die. I want to enjoy this life. And that's the point, to, you know, but if the time comes and I got to go, I'm not going to, you know, it's going to, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I made peace with that. I understand I'm a temporary being. It will not really, this body is temporary. I think the rest of us, this consciousness, I feel is much more. But no, I listen, this is you know, these are things that I had to go through my own journey to get there. So I'm glad that you're in the middle of that journey and I get to talk to you now. That's actually really, that's cool, because, you know, you get to talk to so many people that are like exactly on the same, well, it's hard for me to talk to people of the same wavelength as far as information as me, because I believe some really weird out there stuff. But most people that I will talk to or work with or podcast with, they, you know, they're on one side. So I see what you're saying. It's tempting. And I think that's the whole, even if you look at the story, I just had somebody talk about the story of Jesus when he was tempted by the devil in the Bible. And I had this whole new revelation about it. And I feel like that can be anybody, because you could be somebody who, you know, especially if you have this knowledge, you have this occulted knowledge, like the knowledge that you might learn in Freemasonry, for example, could be used for good or evil, because you're just basically using this knowledge to make yourself a person who is aligning your thoughts and emotions to create action in the world, whether you want to make it good or bad, but you're making stuff happen, right? So people get tempted. And so Jesus was taken up by the devil, and he showed him all these, you know, kingdoms and all these women, and it happens to other people too. And I'm listening to the Upanishads, and it happens also with death. He tempts Najiketa with all this stuff, and he's like, you know, you could have whatever you want. And I think as a person, not that you could just snap your fingers and get whatever you want, but you could dedicate your life to whatever you want. If you want money, you could dedicate your life to money. If you want to date beautiful women, you could dedicate your life to it, and you could do it. So I think that that's really what the praise and the worship is about. And I could tell you, I spent a lot of the first part of my life praising and worshiping more of like material things. Mostly I was a total sex addict. So
Yeah, that's cool.
I
That's
could
good
tell.
though.
And then I got over it, and now I don't even, like, I'm basically celibate, and unless I could find a partner, you know what I mean? Like I just don't want to live that life anymore. But I had to go through it. I had to do everything I did to get to this point. It's like you have to eat enough ice cream to get sick and puke and then be like, like Goldschlager. You know, you got to get hammered one night and do enough to where you're throwing up gold tin and then you're like, never again.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's okay. I feel that's what this world's about, you know, but as soon as you, though, as soon as you are aware of your actions, well, even if you're not aware of your actions, they're going to come back like karma and natural
Hmm.
law if you're in opposition to that. But I think even like if you want to talk about like conspiracy and dark occultists, I feel that people that take advantage of people that are using this knowledge, they get them to consent because they feel they have less natural law effect on them. So for example, a president or a king isn't going to go to a war with a sword. Well, you know, in the day they would, but like, you know, Trump isn't going to go to Afghanistan. He's going to tell people to go and then they're just going to go and do it. So in that way, I feel that these leaders feel, or people that are in these positions feel they're shielding themselves more from natural law. So, but yeah, I mean, it's power is what it is. Everything that you learn, every little life hack that you get above somebody else, like if you learn these ways that personality works and you get into like the Myers-Briggs and you get into like the real truth about that, you can do a number on people. You know, you really could. If you find out what personality type they are, you could type them by the way they act. Then you could
Yeah.
just socially engineer them, and you could use that for any power you want. So there is power in this, you know, good
Yeah,
or
I mean, you
evil.
could definitely do that, but it's like that's that's the easy thing to do, is to manipulate people. The hard thing to do is to actually try to help people be better at doing whatever it is that they do, or just being themselves. But it's like, I don't know, is that too idealistic of me to even want to help people in that manner, or should I just give up on that idea of trying to help people? And should I, it's hard to like, I'll give you an example. One time, someone who misrepresented me one time, my basic message was like psychological, is that you got to see the ugliness within yourself, so that, because every, like, humans can be pretty fucking nasty. I think we can agree on that. You know, just
Yeah.
historically speaking, they've done some pretty fucked up shit. So my basic thesis was like, well, you need to go look into your inner darkness and face it head on, and that's how you won't engage, because anyone can, people are they get in like crowd space minds, masses, mob mentality, and they don't think individually, they just react. People are too much in reactionary mode, and not not really in think for themselves mode. And it's I don't know, when people are in that mode, they get lost and they can do a lot of fucking crazy dangerous shit. So my basic thesis was like, in order to prevent that, you have to look within yourself, the darkness, face it head on. And the person just misrepresented me, saying that I was trying to advocate the destruction of people, because I was looking at these, misunderstood souls who were weak and basically were crying out for help, and who did, like, we were talking about school shooters, and I was basically saying, well, I mean, they didn't. My idea was they didn't do enough psychological work on themselves, or else they would have bypassed the whole thing. And he tried to make it seem like I was like advocating for fucking school shooters or something. Like, it was just an obvious misrepresentation. That's not what I said at all. People just have a tendency to do that. And yeah, when you get into the occult aspect of it, or the spiritual stuff with it, I don't know. It seems like if you do give it to people, like that kind of knowledge, it's. I've noticed some people just use it selfishly. Like the last guy I had a conversation with, we had this really in-depth conversation, and I didn't think anything was wrong until like a week later. He just basically started acting really bizarre and strange, and he just didn't even put out the fucking interview. And it's like, I put a lot of effort trying to say something that was genuinely helpful to people, not selfish. People idolize the whole fucking Kim Kardashian lifestyle. I mean, that's just a pathetic, existence, in
Yeah.
my opinion. And it's like, I'm genuinely trying to use my knowledge for the benefit of other people. I could use it in a fucked up way, but that's the easy thing to do. The hard thing to do is to
Yeah.
help people.
Yeah. especially when they don't want your help, and so that's kind of why I feel like I'm backing off a little bit. I'm still putting it out there. I hear that, man. That's crazy, especially if I went on somebody's show and they didn't air it, I'd be like, really, dude? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it was
That's
really
screwed up.
fucked up. People are just odd, dude. People are just odd.
Yeah.
They get into their thinking habits, and it's like, damn, what you said was pure. It's all, I can't allow this to go out. It's almost like that's what they're thinking. It's like this will, like, people get to possess to like a fear-based mentality, like this is going to help people, I can't let that go out. And it's like I think that's what they're thinking. I don't know. I mean, uh I think that's pretty lame. I mean, a lot of people, they'll get into politics and they'll clearly lie and they'll sell people bullshit, and that's their way of fucking doing things. I just think that's a pathetic way to be. I don't find any honor in that. There's nothing. Anyone can get famous for fucking anything, and that's not necessarily a good thing. You have to like genuinely give to get. So that's why I got started on this because I was basically saying everybody should get credit for what they say and what they do, good, bad, and ugly, like all of it. And it's like sometimes people won't even allow me to like that to happen, but whatever, screw it.
Yeah, well, I think that's what's wrong with the internet, social media specifically, if you're going to ask me, because it's like, if you're in traffic, well, not you, but people will, get road rage or yell or flip someone off because they don't have that face-to-face contact. Well, now you don't even have that awareness at all. You're typing into a screen and it's all in your brain, so you could say whatever you want. So people, yeah, man, they just they're not, there's no consequences really immediate. I mean, sometimes people will call the cops on you and stuff, but most times you could say whatever you want. There's really no consequence, and that is dangerous. Not that I'm saying it should be stopped by force, but I mean, we should look at that behavior is what I'm saying. Like, hey,
Yeah,
everybody, is this how we should be interacting with everybody? Because we're dehumanizing ourselves at the end of the day.
exactly. And
Yeah.
if you go on like 4chan, for example, it's like, it's just like, I can't believe people are just like speaking to each other like this all fucking day. Like that has to be so draining. It's like, I don't know if you've ever gone on 4chan, but just the way they talk to each other, just like constantly shitting on each other, busting each other's fucking balls all fucking day. That has to be draining. Just like constantly being a shitty person saying, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Like, isn't that a draining way to be? I don't want to, I try to limit those situations. I just think it's a waste of time, honestly.
Yeah, I think anything like that, even Facebook, and even something not as bad. Well, I think Facebook's getting like 4chan. I think they're starting to meet in the middle.
Yeah,
So
people are just addicted to that negativity. I just don't get it. They're just addicted to like a very stupid way to be, a very fear-based mentality. Instead of, they're not thinking about trying to help people. They're thinking about basically just trying to hurt people in a stupid way too. It's not even like, it's just, but they don't think anything of it. I just call that everyday psychopathology. Like that's just everyday human ugliness.
yeah,
Although on
yeah,
4chan you see it more, but yeah.
yeah. And I think it doesn't have to be that way. I feel like people are being played. That's what I want to say to people. Like, you're being played. You're listening to these messages from the television. What the hell are you doing? Like, people are like, oh, he's racist and you're this and he's that. And it's like, guys, no, at the end of the day, we got to like zoom way out and look at really what's going on here and who's benefiting and who's, I don't know, man. People
Yeah,
get
I agree.
so, they just, it's polarizing. But, yeah, it's nuts. So what, I'm trying to think what I was going to ask you. So how did you come across this knowledge, and why do you think that what makes you want to help people instead of not help people? Like,
Well, where did I come across it? Let me think. I think it was just a collection of life moments. I've lived such a crazy fucking life. I've had so many weird, bizarre experiences. Not just weird and bizarre, but just an eventful life. I've had to go through a lot of shit that probably most people wouldn't. I've had certain life moments that have defined my character, and I just learned along the way. Like Anon Mess Age Sage was just me trying to jump into the negative energy, not to revel in the negative energy per se, just to understand that inner darkness so that we're not controlled by it. Because when we're controlled by it, that's when we start like just doing things that are just ultimately destructive and self-destructive. And yeah, so it was just a bunch of life experiences. It was basically me when I started Anon Mess Age Sage, just jump into the whole shadow personality. And that's what it's really all about. Jump into the shadow
Oh, all
personality,
right.
have some kind of integration between the two so that you have some kind of personal mastery. That's basically the message, the central message that I try to give people. And if they don't want it, then they don't fucking want it. I can't really do anything about it.
I
You
like
know?
that because I always try to tell people to do the shadow work. You have to go within. So if somebody was to say to you, okay, then what do I do? How do I do this shadow work? What do I got to do? What would you say to them?
Hmm. I would say quite a few things. I would say first, think about what your fears are. What do you fear? You got to pay attention to your dreams and nightmares and what's on your mind deep down that is preventing you from living life to the fullest, because that's what a fear is and that's what the negativity is. So what is your fear? Everybody has a fear. You have to get to the root of it, and it often comes out in nightmares and shit if you have those, if anyone has those. But it's about getting into the root of your fear so that they don't control your destiny. Because when they control your destiny, that's because you don't have any power over that fear. You don't understand it. You have no knowledge of the thing you fear, and that's why you fear it. So I would say look into what you fear, one. And number two, I would say do things that if you can't think of that, then try to see what makes you uncomfortable and go out and do it, because people should never be in their comfort zone. I'm against the comfort zone. Like if you have to, like for example, if you have to go somewhere, and you're going to be around a bunch of people, make yourself speak in front of the people or do something that would require a lot of effort, like get up in front of people and like announce or like just speak to a group of people. Like that can be really daunting for some people to speak in front of a crowd of people, not even a large, like a huge crowd, just like a group of maybe 5 or 10 people or something. If you're going to be in that kind of situation, always try to get the most out of building your character, I think.
Yeah, I like that. That's some really good advice, actually. Fear is really the key. That's how you can be controlled. I don't even have to say they. I'll just say that's how you can allow yourself to be controlled. And the comfort zone thing, that's one thing that that is big. Because when I started doing comedy, I had to do that. I got on stage and I was like scared out of my mind. It was just at an open mic in front of other comedians, and I was just like, But now I'm just do it and do it and do it and repeat. And after a while, it's not that you lose the fear. Sometimes you do, but it's that you're just used to it, and you will perform in spite of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say it's really like for you, like stand-up comedy, like it's such people don't understand how good the bad things that come along with that actually are for your character. Like if people don't even think you're funny, for example, and they're laughing at you, like that's building your character right there, because you learn to stop letting it affect your like behavior, and then you get over that fear of being like everyone else, and then you're more able to do the things you really want to do. So it's like I'm a firm believer in allow failure to guide you to your road. That's what I think.
Yeah, I like that's a great message. A lot of cultures don't eat, they're really afraid of failure. And in this country, you could fail, it's fine. Like in Japan, I remember I forgot what it was, some kind of motivational thing we were doing at some event or whatever, but they were talking about how Japanese people, like, they're so afraid to fail that they never try. And he goes, in the United States, you could fail all you want. Look at Trump. Look at how many times he failed, then he became president. Like, it doesn't matter. Just get out there and pick yourself up and do it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like one day, like one of my weird fucking goals actually is one day I want to like get together some kind of group and just allow everyone, like 100 people, and their goal is like everyone would be paid during this event. If I actually ever orchestrate this thing, the idea is what I always wanted to do was just get 100 people together and just allow them to viciously insult me, and I just have to sit there and take it. Because then that the idea behind that is, when you get to a point where that shit doesn't fucking bother you, then you've really grown in terms of you're building your character. Like you've truly integrated a lot of inner ugliness at that point, when you can allow people to just viciously insult you with a smile on your face.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. You know, I have some advice for you. You could try just whenever, if this COVID stuff ever ends, just Google open mics in your area and go to an open mic and try some corny jokes, and you'll get a lot of hate. Don't worry. But no,
Yeah,
that's what
that would
made
be
me
interesting
stronger,
too.
because literally now I get up there and I'll say something, and it everything I say makes me laugh. That's why I try to say it, right?
Hmm.
So I'll still laugh, but it'll be like the most horrendous thing, and people are like, oh, like gasping, and that makes me laugh even more. So people are like, what's it like to bomb? I'm like, well, it's hilarious for me. It's probably bad for the people, but yeah,
Yeah,
because it
yeah.
does. It just makes you get to the point where, like you said, what the crowd thinks doesn't matter to you, and that's very important, because sometimes it's important to go with the crowd. Sometimes I argue it's way more important to go against the crowd, especially when they're making mistakes, and you got to try to wake people up and let them know, hey, you're about to drive civilization off a cliff, because everybody goes with the crowd, right? So they're just going to go and do it. So sometimes you got to be able
Hmm.
to stand up, and that's what really
Yeah.
fucking courage.
Yeah,
And you're
that's what I
right.
was saying. Most
Yeah.
people are in a reactionary mode. They're not really thinking about their actions or their behavior or any of that. They're reacting to what everyone else is doing, and that's not good. You have to be detached from that, because any kind of success or whatever, anything like that, it's always going to be going against the grain. It's never going to be an easy road. It's definitely going to be very challenging, and that's how you want it to be. You don't want it to be easy, or else, there would be no benefit to it. Anything that's truly easy is just, that's just your comfort zone. You're not growing. You're just existing, and that's not good.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. I mean, I feel it's a balance. So sometimes it's good to get that piece, but you're right. You got to keep pushing yourself. I mean, um, think of what they said about Genghis Khan, is that he would never let his troops stay in a city too long. He would always get them back out in the field because he didn't want them to get soft. So it's that same kind of mentality. You don't want to get soft. You got to stay sharp.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I like to think. I like to constantly always do stuff. I don't like to just be be content with whatever it is that I just did. I always try to immediately go back into do something else. I think it's really important to do that. That's just how I approach things. I think I'm always trying to increase whatever my skill sets are, or intelligence or whatever. Just I'm always trying to get better, not worse. I'm always trying to do something positive for my destiny and hopeful.
That's great that you said that. I hope you don't think I'm laughing at you. I'm laughing because I was sitting here thinking to myself, like, wow, that's such a good quality that you have. I'm like, shit, I wish I would do that more, because I feel that sometimes I do get lazy and I get comfortable. But then you're saying how you just keep working on yourself. I'm like, yeah, but I don't really have a life. Like, if I'm not doing this stuff, most of the time I'm like either reading something or I am like watching a video or something that's trying to better myself so I could work on this message. So it made me laugh. I'm like, oh shit, I am kind of doing that too. So I got to remember to
Yeah.
not be hard on myself. But that's a great characteristic to have, because I feel that, especially because they say that I'm a Cancer and I'm also an INTP. I think all that stuff fits together, but that's one of the things that I have to worry about. I will get comfortable sometimes, and then I just don't like. I started to turn into a hoarder right now. Like, I'm getting rid of stuff and moving to a new place. But yeah, like that'll happen to me sometimes. I get in this mode, especially when I'm creating stuff. I'll go like a day without even eating. I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah, yeah. I do that too.
Yeah, it's great. You get possessed. It's like that's why I love how they say possession, because it really is. Like right now I feel that I'm going to give birth to something soon, and I can't wait because it's been tormenting me. There's like demons inside me literally, but it's this idea about what's going on, and I have to give it my own touch, and I just want to put it out there, but it's mostly uh I don't know, there's a lot of messages. I can't really broach that subject here, but soon. But yeah, that's um it's crazy. It really is. It's like you're possessed sometimes, you know. I got to get it out somehow. I think I might write. I think that's what I do, because I write on my blog every once in a while, but it's been a while. It's been since January that I've written anything. So I think it's about damn time, because all this shit that's been going on, I haven't. So maybe that's what I'll do.
Yeah, well, that's definitely a good thing. Like me personally, yeah, I constantly, I know what you're talking about the possession thing. I have a whole bunch of just, if I weren't channeling that energy into something, I would go literally fucking insane.
Yeah.
And it's just insane because my mind is going 24/7. If I just sit around, like it's not, it can, and also that was what I was saying earlier. If you're not, doing anything about all that build up energy, it can have disastrous effects to where you lose control entirely. That is not good.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really that's a real danger that people, and I feel it's funny because before you're talking about all the negative stuff people do, and I feel that a lot of that stuff is what they do with that built up energy, and it gets
Hmm.
used by people, and they use the fear to direct that energy, and then it gets directed at people. Like for example, I'll tell a quick story about the gentleman at Petco today that tried to get me to wear a mask. I was like,
Yeah,
obviously we
yeah.
haven't met, but I was like, and I'm like, listen, he's just he was a manager, I guess. And I was just there to pick something up. And, he's like, wait outside. And I walked in and I'm like, I'm already in here. Like, we're already all sick, apparently, whatever. But I wasn't really being a jerk, but I could tell he was like trying to goad me. He was trying to get me to that next level so I would flip out, because he kept, like, he wouldn't let me have the last word, even though I'm being silly. And he just kept,
Hmm.
he's like, well, everyone else, he's like, everyone else that I told left and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but just because they left doesn't mean you were right. Like, I just kept, but I wouldn't get
Yeah.
mad. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah. So why did I tell that story again? Yeah. So I feel that, yeah. I don't remember now, man. This new job thing is kicking my ass. Why don't you talk again and I'll think about it again? That's the theme of the
I
show.
think we were talking about letting the inner, all that energy out and
Oh yeah,
channeling it
misdirecting
somewhere.
the energy. I'm sorry, that's right. So yeah, so he was using it in this way to where he's trying to get a rise out of me, so then he could like flip out justifiably on me and be okay. And that's how he wanted to direct that energy. And people on 4chan, that's what I wanted to bring it back to, or now on Facebook, obviously, where it's been happening. They have this energy in them, and they to let it out through rage is a way that it's a good way. It's a quick way to get it out. I mean, you might feel some guilt after, but it's an approved way. And so they do it,
Yeah.
but it just feeds into this division and negativity. They don't realize what they're doing. They're taking their energy and use it for somebody else. And that's the same thing with sexual energy, like with porn. This is something that I've been coming across, like looking at recently. This comedian Owen Benjamin talks about it, and he's like, you're using your energy every day is being focused. And he's like, porn is like a third of the internet's bandwidth or whatever. And it's probably even
Yeah,
crazier than that.
definitely. Yeah.
And he's just saying, like, look at all that energy that's being used and focused, and he's like, this isn't a judgment, guys. He's like, just, but think about it, think about
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I'm all now that you mentioned that, like I'm all big into the Chinese sexual alchemy of whatever you call it, harnessing your sexual energy. Like these are like ancient Chinese secrets or techniques that have been around for like 2,000 years or whatever. But yeah, it's true. Like if you just like jerk off or something, you feel fucking like you have less energy. You really do. Like, and you wake up in the morning, you won't be able to get up as you normally would. That so I try not to. I try to do that Chinese fucking sexual alchemy bullshit.
yeah,
It
yeah.
works.
That's what I've been getting into, that like kind of recently, looking into that stuff. And I have even been talking to a friend about it, and she's like asking me all about it. I'm like, I don't know really, but I'm like, this is what I can tell you so far. But yeah, it's interesting because it really is all about energy, and it's about where you focus it. And it's so crazy how nobody ever tells us this. They do, but they don't directly. And maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe there is a
Yeah.
pit that where this society is such that everybody's a slave, and if you can climb out and figure it out and you can get to the next level, then you could be the person to try to get other people to the next level.
Yeah, well, I think even if society is like that, which I kind of agree, it's like you're still like even the worst case scenario, like say like people just basically occupying position of power to control other people, even if that is the fundamental belief or whatever. Society, like the whole process still has very powerful and good things for people. Like the whole process of fighting, like or trying to better yourself and do all that and free yourself from everything. That the whole process is like, say like the let's just assume that the worst fucking thing possible was how everything really was. In my opinion, I think that you still would be able to, the people would still like increase. They would well, you either die or you increase. Like the species either ends completely, or there's a gradual increasing of people achieving the human potential or whatever. That's what I believe.
Yeah, I like that. Because that kind of goes along with an idea that I've had lately, which is I like to use the tortoise and the hare analogy, where everybody thinks the whole time that the hare was going to win, but the tortoise is really the smart one. So I like to look at tortoise as like quote unquote good. And I don't like to, I hate to say good and evil because it's like judgment, but right now everybody just thinks, that good is getting its ass kicked and that evil's running amok. But maybe, just maybe, it's because know thy enemy, right? And so what are you going to do? You're going to let them think that they're ahead of you. You're going to let them think that they're winning, and you're going to take that underestimation that they have on you and you're going to use it to your advantage. So I feel that that's really what this is all about, because if they knew what I knew, they wouldn't let me talk to you. From the Matrix,
Yeah.
when he says that. And I feel that's kind of like the internet, like if they knew what I knew, they wouldn't put the internet out there. They think they're being smart and they're going to control everybody, but I think they're going to let out some secrets and it's going to be,
Well, that's like, I mean, the idea comes from like ancient, I think it was Hesiod's working days or something. Basically, there was the Saturnian like golden age or whatever. Then there was the silver age. Then there was like the bronze age, I believe. Then the iron age. It's like humanity's been through different levels, and I think that's true. I think it's gone down, but it's also gone up. It's just it's in the same direction as like Earth's changes. Like sometimes there's more oxygen in the air and things are bigger and smarter and like the ancient dinosaurs or whatever. And then other times the earth, I think the earth just goes in cycles, and sometimes the cycles humans become like a pitiful version of what they once were, but then other times they rise up as the stronger version of what they were.
yeah. I like the thing about cycles because you could see that in the Hindu religion. They talk about the yugas, and right now they say we're in the Kali Yuga, which is the literal
Yeah,
dark
yeah.
age. And a lot of people will say, like it, just like in Frodo asks or says to Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, he's like, why do I have to be the one to do this? Why? And Gandalf's like, listen, a lot of people who have lived to see such terrible times have asked the same question, but that's not the question. That's not the one you got to ask. It's like, you got to do, that's not the question. The question is, what do you do with the time that you have? And I feel like it's better kind of for people like us that want to do good work, because there's plenty of work to do, man. It's like there's no shortage.
Yeah.
We're not going to be getting laid off anytime soon. Maybe by YouTube, but
Yeah,
as far
well,
as
all that.
getting out there and telling the truth, there's definitely a need for it. So
Well, yeah, the interesting thing about the Kali Yuga is that it's supposed to signify the worst age. That's basically what I was just talking about. This is like the worst age, but after this, it gets a hell of a lot better. That's my point, And I tend to believe that everything goes in cycles. Sometimes the worst shit that happens, like war, disease, everything, it's a necessity, but it's a necessity almost to get to the next point in which you can bring finally some light, some positivity into being and all that. It's like you almost have to go through all that horrible shit to get edified and refined to a higher level.
yeah, yeah. And what kind of scares me, going off, that's is maybe a little bit off the subject, but the people that I see around me and the behavior that I've seen ever since we've gotten like a little bit of freedom, people are just going right back to their old behavior of escapism, and they didn't learn anything. And I think that if they think, like, all I hear is people going, I can't wait till things go back to the way they were. And I feel like it's the exact behavior that was displayed before that led us to where we are now. And that same behavior is only going to be worse for us. Like, even if you think of it in a straight up natural law sense, where as a society, the United States, or as a country, the people in America are able to live in this elevated state of luxury, you can call it, at the expense of a whole other country called China, where those people are living like slaves. That
Yeah.
stuff has to even out eventually. Maybe it won't happen in our lifetimes, but what I mean is, if we start to back off from it ourselves, and I feel like I've done this in my life a little bit, just by eating less, spending less, doing less, just trying to live minimally. I feel if everybody could start to do that, then at least we can get it in the right direction ourselves, instead of going smack dab into that wall or whatever it is. And I feel like we hit a speed bump, and everyone's like, oh, COVID, boom, and oh, it's fine, we'll catch you, we lost a couple things, but no, we were headed to that wall or whatever. So
Yeah.
that's really what the Kali Yuga is about, I think. But I feel people, though, like, if you align your behavior and you do what you're supposed to do, no matter what happens to you, it doesn't matter. You're still gonna you're gonna fit into the world, because, like they say, everything is perfect. Even we are in the dark age. That all these bad things, they have to happen, so then the good things can happen. It's what happened before us. I feel like we can't understand exactly. It's a mystery. So that's what I try to tell people. I just leave it as a mystery, because I don't know it. We could talk about the mystery and we can have discussions and it's fun, but we all have to agree we don't know. But what do we know? We know that things go in cycles. We know as above, so below. So it's
Well,
just,
it's like,
yeah.
yeah. Well,
Go ahead.
Mother Nature basically guides everything on Earth. It's all Mother Nature, and in the whole process of evolution and all that, Mother Nature uses these things. Basically, it's almost like the Earth has its own consciousness, and it's trying to use the fucking ice ages and all these things as tools to build or perfect, the perfect specimen or something. It's like, that's kind of the way I think about evolution in that kind of sense, because I've read like a whole bunch of interesting totemistic beliefs, like the indigenous people of Siberia, which is actually the region where part of my ancestors come from, believe it or not. And the people that live there, or the indigenous people that live there, they have all these like totemistic, really weird, interesting views about just like their cosmology is so different. And I kind of believe, that there's a little bit of that in terms of like cosmology. Like the Earth is almost like a conscious, like the Romans talked about Gaia or whatever they called her. They personified her as a goddess. It's almost like it's a conscious entity trying to direct evolution in a specific way. And in order for it to get good, it has to go through the fucking ice ages and all that horrible shit first, and floods and all of that stuff. That's what I think. Possibly.
Yeah, I like that idea. And then humankind has to go through all these stages themselves too. I feel like
Yeah.
it is, if it is some kind of evolution, and I don't mean evolution in the Darwinian sense, I just mean as if we are progressing, if we are life forms going toward another better thing, I feel that that is something you have to experience. You got to do both sides. And that's really what the shadow work's about. And that's why this realm that we find ourselves in right now is so great, because you can go engage in all these behaviors, and you might not see the consequences of your actions right away. It might only go down to your children. So you're able to operate in this area and just do fuck all, whatever you want. And you have to actually do it yourself. You have to come to the conclusion yourself and make the choice to stop doing it yourself. And that's really, I think, what this is about. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think even beyond, like, even if ultimately people are just trying to control other people at the end of the day, I think even so, even if that is the case, Mother Nature is still beyond like all people and all other forces, and that force is directing life to be a specific way. It is trying to perfect creation almost. I do believe that.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's kind of hinted at in the whole. I like to use Christian allegory because that's what this whole country is bathed in. So when Jesus is being crucified and he says about the Romans who are doing it and the people who are doing it, says, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." And I feel that's kind of like if there are people in control, like dark occultists or whatever, whoever's behind the scenes, the president, or I feel these people who are using the occult they think they're scheming and they're getting up on their fellow man and everything's gravy for them, but I don't think they really realize the powers that they're playing with. And yeah, you're right. If this Mother Earth or creation wants to do something, it's going to go there, and regardless of what you think. And the
Hmm.
thing is, they don't even realize they are the pawns. They're the ones who are creating this dark age, and maybe some of them do. Maybe that's why they do it, and that's why I don't like to judge, because maybe they're so lit that they're saying, hey, we got to put the world through the dark age because it's that time, so we got to bring out the fucking axes and upside down crosses or whatever,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think, oh, you know what I did want to ask you about too is the Siberian thing. That's really interesting. What's another thing that you found that was kind of different than because most people in our culture are just familiar with the Abrahamic religions, and they think those are the only religions. They're like, oh, you're either a Muslim or you're a Christian or you're Jewish, and those are so different, don't you know? And it's like, no, it's the same. It's all out of the same book. So what are some of the other differences that you found with this totem belief structure?
Well, I'm like really interested in like there's so many people. I mean, there's so many little tribes and little ethnic groups. Even in Europe, you have like people from that region. You have like some of the reddest hair people come. They're like I forget their names. There's so many names. There's so many different little
Wait,
split
you have
tribes
the
of.
Basque people, right? Is that
Oh yeah,
or
I love the Basque people. I love them. Yeah, they're very interesting people. These people have been there for like at least probably I would say 2,000 years. Like no one. The thing about Spain is Spain could never fully conquer those motherfuckers. They were too rebellious.
yeah, even
It's
today,
very interesting.
they're
Yeah, like
trying, but they're
even
trying.
today.
And their whole language is not even from the Romantic. It's like from another branch that people aren't
Yeah,
even sure where it comes from.
it's not even Indo-European.
Yeah,
That means they've been there for such a long fucking time, and Spain has been trying to basically colonize them, and it's just never worked out
I'm gonna
because
move
they're
there.
too rebellious.
You think
And
I
the
can convert? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
you could see the same thing in like the Chechen people from like Russia. They're another like super rebellious people that have never been fully integrated into the country or wherever they're from. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I love that about and then you have certain cultures that were just totally erased that no one's ever heard of, like the Thracians. Like what's a
Hmm.
Thracian? Yeah, history
I
is
love history.
crazy.
I
Yeah,
love fucking history. It's probably my favorite subject besides like the occult and psychology. Like those three, and economics number four. I like all those subjects, but I really love history a lot.
yeah. I'm really big in history. What's your favorite thing to investigate, or what do you think
Hmm.
was most what I would say, not maybe your favorite, but what was your most influential um the
I'm
thing you
I'm
studied that had the
really
most influence on you?
I'm really interested in that fucking Rh negative blood. I've always had that weird obsession. You know what I'm talking about?
Like the royal bloodline?
With the Rh negative blood, there's some like it's a specific type of blood type that's totally lacking the antigens of the rhesus monkey or something. And
Oh, all right.
that's
So
the thing about
why
the
don't you
Basque people. They're Rh negative.
give us a quick give me a quick rundown then, because I'm not exactly familiar with this. So for people who are listening, they could benefit from this totally.
Well, you mentioned the Basque people, and it's interesting that you mentioned them because actually they have the highest percentage of Rh negative blood type in the world. It's like something crazy, like 35 fucking percent of them are Rh negative, which is super fucking high. You don't really see that anywhere else. And they're also super fucking rebellious people. So it makes you think, are the two correlated? I would say that's my biggest obsession in terms of history is uh, besides like the ancient Roman stuff and Greek stuff. I'm really interested in that damn blood type.
So what are some stuff that you found out about it, just for especially for people who aren't familiar with it?
no one, that's the thing. No one really knows about, no one's, and if they do know about it, they're not really coming out in the mainstream media. Is not going to
Yeah.
fucking tell you what it is. Like, no one really knows what this blood type is all about, but it's a very peculiar mutation somehow that's been part of certain ethnic groups, especially like the Basque people. There are a couple other people. I think certain Celtic people from like Ireland, like the original people from that region, also pretty high in that blood type. People, I don't know, it's a very strange fucking blood type, and yeah, no one really knows what's about that blood type, but that's probably one of my biggest obsessions, I would say, like in terms of history. Like, I'm fascinated, what the fuck is that blood type? Some people think it's aliens, blah blah blah. Some people think it's, just a random mutation, there's nothing special about it. That could be true.
Yeah. It could be a lot of different things. I mean, there's people who trace these lines back to what would be called today Atlantis, to like a previous civilization. And I mean, it could have something to do with that. If you think about all the flood stories, maybe the people in Basque survived because they're in the mountains and they just kept their thing going and were never affected,
Yeah,
So maybe there was some kind of civilization reset, and that's one of the keys, one of the clues. That could be it. I mean, it could be aliens. Who knows?
I was always interested in Sumer too. That was another obsession of mine. Fucking ancient Sumer is definitely one of the coolest things to investigate. And it's so interesting that none of these little peculiarities in history are really talked about that much. Like, no one's really going into the deep history of ancient Sumer. That's like the first civilization in written history. No one's really talking about that, which is a little strange. You would think that that's the first civilization that we have written record of. No one's really talking about it though. Like, you maybe if you're lucky, like growing up in school, you'll get like a little tiny little section on ancient Sumer, just acknowledging its existence or something. That's about it.
Yeah, it's crazy. Aren't there a bunch of words too that come from that civilization that we use?
Um, hmm, I'm not
I can't
sure actually.
remember. It's something like that. I might be misquoting something. I know that a lot of our words come from Arabic too. A lot of the English words come from Arabic. Anything with al in it, it's crazy what they don't tell you in school. I mean, why would they? They basically, I think, you learn probably about the Romans a little bit and about the Greeks.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, and that's really about it. Yeah, I think it is really fascinating when you go back that far.
Well, there's just
Yeah.
like humanity has two different drives almost. It's like one drive is like, let's help everybody. Like, even the dumb people, like the dumbest person imaginable, let's help that person be like, let's help that person. And then there's also the opposite drive that you see in humanity. It's like business for the sake of business. Let's just, because ultimately the reason why people wouldn't want other people to know about these things is because it's a game of resources and they don't want competition. At the end of the day, they don't want fucking competition. That's the only reason you would not tell people these things, if you feared some kind of competition. Like, if you were in business, would you necessarily tell your rivals like your insider trading secrets or whatever? Probably not. So, what
Yeah.
do you think about it? Like, do you like kind of agree with what I said, or like, I
No.
kind of see humanity as like we're pulled in two different directions, and we're trying to integrate the two.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. I think what you're saying makes total sense. It really is. That's really what's going on. And if we are in that dark age, it is the time for more people to be in the darkness and not know it. And it is time for people like us to kind of be that beacon of light, to shine it out, or just to spread the knowledge. And really, especially now, because so many more people are waking up. And that's why I feel like it's like they're making it so obvious. At this point, if you're buying into the game, it's your own folly. I can't feel bad for you. You know what I mean? I'm gonna say, like, I got to do what I got to do now. But like, if there's bread lines and you're starving, and I have a garden, and I have gold and I have weapons and stuff, like, I can't feed everybody. Like, I'm gonna try, but guys, you gotta wake up. But
Yeah,
I know I do. I definitely like what you're saying. I always try to use humor to couch everything, obviously, but
yeah, yeah.
I think it is important. And no matter what, I don't know, it's like no matter what other people say, it doesn't matter. You just got to listen to the voice within. But it's just people in the society were raised to always get our to look outside for all of our validation, you know, and all of our
Hmm.
permission and everything. So
We're
uh
backwards in a lot of ways, if you ask me. Like, I
yeah.
mean, just it's just pathetic. Like, people literally worship fucking fame to such a ridiculous level. It's not even like it's not healthy. It doesn't even make sense. It's like a desire to get attention or something. I don't know. It's like a desire to be validated. Maybe some people don't feel validated, but it's like you just see it everywhere. Like our society just loves. They're obsessed with stupid things like Kardashians and fucking Kanye West. It's like, why? Like, is that really the best humanity has to offer?
Well, it is
Yeah.
like attention. It's like a prana economy. I heard this guy, James True, same guy, probably was talking about this also. I've been like digging him lately, but it's like an intent, and I've noticed it in my own life, but I'm just using his words, which is prana economy, prana economy. But the prana is the energy, it's the attention, it's where do you focus your attention, and that's what they're doing. They're getting everyone to focus their attention, and they have these people who they're the ones that are allowed to be the ones that get all the attention, and they get to go out there and everyone wants to know what they're doing. And I'll tell you, man, I would imagine their life is probably hell. Like I wouldn't want to be, I'm not trying to judge any of them. They could do whatever they want. But what I mean is like, can you imagine having to be, everybody knows who you are? I don't think people realize what that's actually like when everybody knows who you are. You can't, I hung out one time. I was DJing in this club and I got to drive Tommy Lee around from Motley Crue. So I brought him. We went to a Wendy's. There was a few of us. He couldn't stay in there for more than 2 minutes, and it was 3 o'clock in the morning. You know, so it's like
Yeah.
that's not the fucking life you want, man. Come on.
Well, that's like, and it's like all you also see, like, I'm in so many different weird circles. Like, you were saying earlier, it's you kind of want people who are different. You don't want just confirmation bias. Like, that's not fun. You want to talk to like people who are totally different and about as different as they can be from you. And yeah, in some of the circles I'm in, you see a lot of people just they could really love the whole underground ethos of just fuck the mainstream. We don't even want to be mainstream. Fuck it, and they'll get like super like pissed if you even uh, profess a desire to be somewhat successful or successful. They hate on that, but it's like I think there's a balance between the two. I don't think you can just. I mean, there's still something to gain from the fame,
Oh
as
yeah, yeah, yeah,
long
for
as you
sure.
use it for a real end. But if you're just like trying to absorb attention because you never got attention as a child, then that's not really cool.
Yeah,
you
no,
know?
you're speaking my language. Balance is my word. You're right. I love that the saying everything in moderation, especially moderation, because that's really you're right. You can't because especially whenever you think you have it figured out, that's exactly when you don't. And I feel when you do figure it out is when you realize that there's no way you'll ever be able to figure it out. So you just gotta it's one step at a time, man. It's like being a heroin addict. I guess I'm not one, but I'm just saying, it's one day at a time. It's like
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
We all have our addictions. I'm addicted to sugar. I'll say it. There you go, everybody. I'm addicted to sugar. But yeah, it's one step at a time, and I don't know. It's crazy, but I'm really digging this conversation. I think we're about just at over an hour. So, is there anything else you wanted to kind of talk about or chew on before we wrap this thing up?
Let me think. I don't know. I just make music through Anon Mess Age Sage and just put all the dark shit out. Like, I channel all that energy so that it doesn't guide me in my daily life. That's essentially why I really fixate on the dark shit in the music, so it doesn't guide my fucking daily life, so I can think clearly. As for what I
Oh,
want
I
to talk
like
about,
that, man. That
I'm not
let's
really
let's
sure.
talk about that for a second, really quick, because that is really important. Because we touched on that a little bit before, but I think the way you enunciated this time was much better, and that's true because I do art sometimes. I do art, guys. I'll just like do watercolors or paintings, and I used to look at a picture and do it, but now I try to do it from what's inside. And I feel you're right. If you can get that darkness and you can get it out of you and express it in a positive way. And I've been talking about this in my podcast, like I tell people just, if you have something to say, don't get on Facebook, write a blog. write it down. You know, you could do art. Art is writing. Art is speaking into this. Anything is art. Don't let anyone tell you. You know, you could go do graffiti if you want, whatever. But that's so important. You get that darkness out of you, and then you can look at it, and you don't have to worry about it coming out later as some kind of most people engage in escapism. Like you were saying before, they'll just go on living their life and they don't care about other people. They just find these little ways of escapism. A lot of it is drinking. A lot of people just go to drinking and they just get hammered, and then they go out and do whatever, and then they just go back to their life. And that's right, because they have that darkness and they don't know how to deal with it. So how do they do it? How do they deal with it? They drown themselves in alcohol, and then they go out and just, you know, make bad decisions.
Yeah, I would like to say basically what I notice is basically people who present themselves as kind of dark like I do. Obviously, there's a very good side to me. And often you see people who present themselves as very righteous, and there's a whole bunch of evil in those motherfuckers. It's like it's reversed.
Well, yeah, it's exactly. We're an upside down world. It's like George Costanza in that episode of Seinfeld where he's like, I'm going to do everything opposite. It's opposite world or opposite day, but not, it's just opposite universe. Or what, not universe, but right now, it is exactly the opposite. It's crazy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I feel like that's how people that are evil can get things to work, because humans they have certain needs, and those needs can be falsely addressed the reverse way. So people think they're getting the energy they want, but they're actually giving it instead of receiving it. But it feels the same to them, or it triggers that same thing to keep them long enough so they don't blow their brains out. But some people do, unfortunately. And that's another thing that, you know, people that can't, they just get driven to the edge. You know, it's sad in this society. It's really crazy. But I like what you said about the darkness and presenting yourself as somebody who's darker, because it's the opposite. Because all these people you see that are supposed to be your friend and help you out, those are the ones that they want something from you, you know?
Yeah, the evil motherfuckers are the one on like television with like saying buy this product because it's gonna make sure that you get like fucking 100 girlfriends. That's obviously a lie. They just want you to buy into their product. So that's displaying trickery to people. You know, you're just deceiving people, and it's like, yeah, but they're presenting such a wholesome image. It's always reversed, I find. But that's what I was saying about the whole shadow personality. It's like, you know, you got all of it. You got the really good, like if you present yourself a certain way, you got the total opposite. And that's what your shadow is. It's not necessarily always the evil part. To say you're an evil person, your good part would be your shadow personality.
Yeah, I like that. And if anyone's interested in more on that, you can always also, if you look into your astrology, look what your moon sign is and look into your moon sign. And that is similar to that shadow realm. And that, for me anyway, and most people that I'll ask them about astrology and they're like, and I'm like, do you know your moon sign? They don't. And I'll like get their moon sign and then I send them and they're like, oh, you know, I'll send them what the traits are. And they're like, wow, that's pretty accurate. I'm like, yeah, you got to look into this stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Anon, for coming on. And
Sure.
I really appreciate it. I had a really good chat. So, I mean, I found you on Twitter, but is there anywhere else you could steer people to find you on your work?
You know, I kind of like, it sounds ridiculous, but I like people to use their imagination. I believe me, I'm all over the place, all over the web. Like, because I didn't talk about this, but I was really interested by all that like deep web mythology where all these like args and shit, you got to find it yourself. You got to do the work. So it's like, just let them, you know, find me.
All right. Yeah. You know? I like that. Yeah. I like that. Instead of saying we go here, like instead of saying you can find me here and like I'm just like making fun of my background. I see how it is. All right. That's fine. I like that. No, yeah, that's cool though. So, all right. Well, everybody, you know where to find me. So, until we talk next time, thanks dude for coming on the show.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. We'll do it again soon.